Yeah, gotta love that theme music, man. We've been here a while at this point, but I never get tired of it. You feel me? Welcome to the Uncommon Commentators. I'm the boy Antwane Willis. This is my man Garrett Brown. Always up talking these hoops on these Thursday nights. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Most definitely got the boy William, boy Wiley on the ones and twos. Always right on time. Most definitely. You already know how it goes. But like I said, with my main man GB tonight. How you feeling, Garrett? It's Thursday, man, as always. So how's your week been so far, brother? Most definitely.
Yeah, my week has been good. The playoffs are going crazy. We have a lot to discuss because it is getting out of control. But we're here, another episode, so ready to dive into it.
Yeah, man, this shit's been getting pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie, it's been pretty cinematic, if I should say, in the first round. A lot of movie making moments, a lot of during the 25-26 season, a lot of these moments are definitely going to be on the intro packages of the hometown teams and stuff like that. It's pretty funny I say that. Honestly, I do want to start off with the biggest, best moment of the entire second round, in my opinion. We can go ahead and kick it off with what I think is honestly the craziest upset thus far, with the Indiana Pacers in the first seeded history making this season, damn near Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh man, like it's pretty crazy to see the Cavs go down 2-0 the way that they are right now. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton sent them to fucking bed in Cleveland. I'll be honest, man. Like he's gaining a lot of respect out here. You even saw it on the court. The fans are screaming overrated during the whole when he's at the free throw line. You saw Donovan Mitchell quiet the crowd down because he has certainly gained this respect. The young all-star. I'll be real. Like, so obviously, it was a down year for Tyrese Halliburton. He had only averaged like 19 points and like 9 assists a game compared to the season he had last year. But I think right now he has proven to be a playoff player. To be real, I think Steven Adams was the one who had the quote where he said like, "There's playoff risers," and I really do agree with that. It's pretty crazy to see him really turn a corner like this at such a young age, leading a team like this in these big ass moments. Literally hit a step back three, game winner, ice cold, a real game winner, in my opinion. Not like a tie, like you'll go to overtime if you don't make the shot. Like the game was on the line. He hit a step back and he dribbled out to shoot the three under pressure. So he's showing composure right now at a super young age. And I think right now for him to really lead a franchise like this, even after having a down year, really shows what he's about to do in the future. It's pretty remarkable. Seeing him come out of that Sacramento Kings trade, and it's really take over this team like that. He signed a 5-year deal, so he's here for a while. And I really think he's just been the story of this entire series. Like I really like seeing the all-stars, like damn near like the future all-time greats, like in action. I really think Tyrese Halliburton at this point is really showing himself to rise to a new level. Obviously it's bold to call him a superstar, stuff like that. Even you heard Shaquille O'Neal say there's only 4 superstars in the league, but I definitely think he's making a name for himself in the points right now where it does matters most in the postseason. So yeah, man, Cleveland, it sucks, man. Like obviously you saw like they were hurt the game 2. They were still up at one point. I mean, like up the whole game damn near. And like Donovan Mitchell had like a 48 piece. And they still lost. So like what do you think is next for the Cavaliers? And how do you feel about this emergence of Tyrese Halliburton thus far this postseason?
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, they're not a team that you can underestimate despite the record. And you gotta give credit when it's due. They walked in to Cleveland's arena on the road and they took care of business. And I think some people may suggest that Tyrese Halliburton kind of had a down year this year, maybe because of the fact that he wasn't producing at the same level as he was last season, or I could say, somewhat in the playoffs. But the point is that Tyrese Halliburton, he, shows up when he needs to show up, and he did it for his team in games 1 and 2. So, yeah, it's a complete shock to see Cleveland, down 0-2. But it'll be interesting to see what they do in Indiana in the next 2 games and see what kind of adversity they could really, go through because of the fact that with them being down, 0-2, of course, there's pressure on them to, climb their way back into the series. But like I said, Indiana, they're up 2-0, and they head back home. And Indiana, they're one of those teams that is hard to win in their arena because they get very, very loud. And
Mhm.
so it's like, hey, if they get at least one, meaning Indiana, if they win either game 3 or 4, I wouldn't say it's a wrap, but it's going to be a very steep hill decline for Cleveland, and of course we'll get into it for Boston and New York in a minute though. But no, but like I said, Indiana, they went up there and took care of business. So that's part of the on playoffs. That's what it's all about. You have to go up there and take care of business, and they did that. So
Mhm.
you got to give them credit when it's due.
Yeah, man. And the thing is, the biggest part about this for me is that they're doing this with Pascal Siakam not even playing that well. He only had like 17 points, 8 rebounds the first game, shooting 6 of 15, though. It's not the best efficiency. And he only had 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists in the second game. So with their co-star, who averaged 20 and 7 on the season, is playing this bad, and they're still up 2-0, haven't even lost a game yet to the number 1 seed. I think once he comes around, which he will eventually, of course, the former NBA champion, Pascal Siakam, I do think they will eventually increase their likelihood to winning this series at least to like 75%. I think the fact that they're in Cleveland's head like this, it's going to be really, really hard to win that game 3 if you are the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm very intrigued to watch that game tomorrow because I'd be shocked, man, if Indiana let it go like that. Last season when they lost to Boston like that in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm pretty sure they got swept. But if you watch the games, every single game, they had a chance at the end of every game last year. It was really frustrating to see them really just give it away like that almost. It's like for Jaylen Brown to hit an incredible game-winning shot out of the corner to send the Pacers home the way that they did. So, and obviously, he went on to win Finals MVP. So they really showed you what it took to really knock the Pacers out that year, regardless of what you see on the score, like the box score for the end of the series. I think the Pacers really psyched themselves out all 4 games in that series, and I think they've learned from that. And we're seeing that now against this 1 seed with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, Cleveland. The postseason is going to give a different intensity, even on your home floor, even if you're in a positive mindset off what you did in the regular season. Like, everything just becomes harder. Everything becomes more intense because of just like the effort exerted from the players. There's some players that wait for the postseason to put their bodies on the line because they know that the regular season doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme, of course. So my point is, by saying that, is that I think that for Cleveland, like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them lose maybe 4-1, if anything like that. Like I said, Donovan Mitchell had some amazing heroics in that game too, and they still lost. He did everything. He did exactly what he was supposed to, missing some of his star caliber players like that, and they still lost by 1 point off a devastating 3-ball from the Indiana Pacers. So I really think at this point, it's really just that's all that Cleveland has to work with at this point. Like, a Donovan Mitchell who's going to try his best. We'll see what happens with Darius Garland and his toe injury, I believe. At this point, like I mentioned, it wouldn't be surprising for me to see Indiana beat them 4-1. For me, it's just about, can Indiana really go all the way like that? Do they have the core to really go all the way with Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, Obi Toppin, all these pieces? They're playing really good, especially Aaron Nesmith. He's played really, really well lately as well. It's moments like these that really show you what a team is really made of. We're kind of seeing it kind of with the Timberwolves. You saw it in that first round where they had Jaden McDaniels having 30 points, 25 points. When you have the core coming around the franchise player like that, really pitching in 20 points to 30 and things of that nature, you really start to see what a team is capable of, even when they face a higher seed like how the Pacers are. So I think for right now, they just got to remain calm. Don't get too ahead of themselves. Like I said, Cleveland's going to be extremely motivated to get that loss back in Indiana, even regardless of the circumstances that they're under right now. So I think at this point, we really just got to see if they can just remain calm, if Rick Carlisle can bring the series home. Some people still have the Cavs in 7. I don't know about that. I think it's going to be pretty hard to take this momentum away from Indiana. And like I mentioned, Tyrese Halliburton's playing like a madman right now, really trying to get his team back to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, man, at this point, like, I do think they're gonna be up there in the Eastern Conference for a relatively long time. Halliburton's really young, and they have the core around him, and he makes his teammates better. He does play winning basketball, so they have the system to prove that they can win long term. So I am excited to see this Pacers team, and of course, keeping it with the postseason. Of course, we'll see if they beat Cleveland. Well, I said I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I'm not giving a pick yet or anything like that. If they win game 3, I think you could low-key put the nail in the coffin at that point, most definitely. But what do you think happens with this series? Do you think Cleveland can come back at all with their injuries? Even with Donovan Mitchell putting up 48 points, they still lose. Like, what do you think happens with Cleveland in this series? And do you think Indiana, can they go on to match up well against the Knicks and the Celtics winner?
Well, I think for Cleveland, I think it's going to be a very steep hill for them to climb, because if Indiana gets, you know, a win in the next 2 games, then, for me, I think it's going to be a wrap. Don't get me wrong, Cleveland, they are the number 1 seed for a reason, so I'm not saying it's total game over, but you don't really see many playoff series where teams are down 3-1 and it turns into a 7-game series. You've seen it before, but it's not something that you see every year. So Indiana, they've shown they are capable of beating this team. So, and Rick Carlisle, he is a very, very good coach. He won a championship with Dallas Mavericks, so he knows what it takes to win. That was a long time ago. But no, I think for Cleveland, they have to at least to me, I think they have to go and win both games. It's going to be hard for me to see them overcome a 3-0, or down 3-0, or 3-1. Honestly, I think they have to win both games 3 and 4 to keep their hopes alive. But for Indiana, I think that I don't know if they match up very well against either Boston or the Knicks, due to the simple fact that I think that both teams carry a lot more firepower, in my opinion. So, Jalen Brunson, clutch player of the year, Karl Anthony Towns, one of the top centers in the league. So they're definitely, and they have, to me, I think they have better defenders, perimeter defenders like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. So the Knicks, they throw a lot of problems at you, and you can say the same thing for Boston, though. But like I said, the Pacers, they are a team that you just can't underestimate, because, like I said, they're very well coached. They have good defenders on their team as well, but I'm just not sure they have enough to beat either team 4 out of 7 times. So that's just something that we'll just have to see.
No, I agree with you. I feel like we really put a bow on it nicely. But shout out to the Indiana Pacers, man. I feel like they're probably the biggest surprise this second round. I don't give a fuck who you're talking to. It's just it's the way the games are ending. Like, it's the fact, like, this man, like, that's gonna be a historic shot in the history of the Indiana Pacers, best believe it. The fact that he's sending teams home, like, he absolutely shut the lights out, quiet, go to bed, damn near didn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, the fans that went got their money's worth, but, like, to go home like that, for it to be quiet in the Quicken Loans, like, that's just crazy, But either way, we'll see what happens with the Cavs. It's pretty remarkable to really see what the Pacers are doing. I know I just said that, but I mean, it's cool seeing storylines like that. But keeping it with the storylines, of course, another massive one is the defending champions being down 2-0 to the New York Knicks. You feel me? And again, obviously, everyone had high hopes for the Celtics coming into the season. Many people thought they would come and be the first season again, and Cleveland came out, was the biggest surprise in the regular season, you could say. Even with the Cavs' success in the regular season last year, of course, they had a great season this year, but many people thought the defending champions would come in and basically reestablish themselves and just replant themselves on the throne, even in the regular season. Of course, they still won 60 games, but they had some losses here and there that maybe really some head scratchers, basically. And it really wasn't truly the Boston Celtics that we're accustomed to, given how like they looked in certain performances. And I think given like this Knicks series right now, the last two like these last two games, I think it's really showing that they're beating themselves almost. You know, like, it's getting to the point where like they're shooting an unnecessary amount of 3-pointers, given the like their ability on this team. I think Jaylen Brown is a great slasher. I think barely anyone can stop Jason Tatum from getting to the rim when he really wants to like that. And even that, even if they start to penetrate more, that'll make more opportunities for driving kicks, you know, more defensive gravities, more double teams on the drives, you know, kick out to a 3-point shooter and things of that nature. And we saw for the Celtics, it just did not work for them in game one, obviously. Shooting and just a drastic, terrible amount of 3-pointers. And then with the game two, that was a heartbreaking fucking loss at the hands of Mikal Bridges in the TD Garden. I did not see that coming when Tatum had the ball in his hands and he's about to pass out. I thought he would at least been able to get it to a shooter to maybe get a shot up, to get an opportunity or something like that. The fact that Mikal Bridges stopped the play altogether like that, and they went up 2-0, just taking two games in Boston is absolutely massive no matter who you are. And I don't want to say damn near dare I say they're trying to make the Celtics look one-dimensional, and they really do rely a bit too heavily on their 3-point shot. Like I said, they do have some solid slashers on the team, but I feel like, you know, if you live in by the 3, you're going to die by it, and that happened at a drastic rate. And of course, in game 2, I got to cut in some slack. They only lost by 1 point after the Knicks did beat them 91-90 after a subpar game from Jalen Brunson, shot like 6 of 19, and they still got the victory. So that shows you once Brunson is on, the Kia Kutch Player of the Year with Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart.
Now wait a minute, you said you were cutting slack. Who are you referring to? Boston?
Oh yeah, I was cutting them slack in game two. Game 2, I was cutting slack only because they lost by 1. They lost by 1 point.
No. Let me. Time out, Chief. Time out, Chief. Hold on. Let's stop right there, bro. Right there.
Even before you go, shout out to my friend Maria, who was from Puerto Rico. She's a massive Celtics fan, and she was livid with the performance of the Boston Celtics. She thought they played terrible. Again, they really shot themselves in the foot on numerous occasions throughout the game. So I would love to hear what my main man Garrett Brown about this. It's about the Celtics most definitely.
Yeah, bro. There's no cutting slack in this. I am sorry. There's no cutting slack in this now. The simple fact is this, okay? You are in the playoffs, okay? It's all hands on deck in every single game, okay? You are the defending champs. It is your job to defend your title. Now, we understand that it's different every year where you may not be able to defend your title each and every year because every year is different. But in this case, in regard to this series, there's no excuse for the Knicks to be down 2-0. Now, this is different compared to Indiana and Cleveland. It's a different story. Boston never had an excuse to be down 0-2 the way they are. Now, it'd be different if it's where it's been a battle between both teams back and forth, where both teams are, you know, responding to each other. But in reality, that was never the case. You had a 20-point lead twice. You had a 20-point lead twice in both games, and you choked.
Of course,
you blew 2 20-point leads in back-to-back games, and the Knicks came back in both games and stole it on your home court. But that's not even the worst part. Now, to me, I think the Knicks, like I said before, are a much better team than the Pacers. Everybody knows that when you go to Madison Square Garden, it is very difficult to win a game up there. Okay, so the fact of the matter is that not only you're down to zip, but you're also going to New York in a very, very tough place where it's loud. And those Knicks fans, they are ruthless. They will say anything. They will do anything. They do not care. They're going to show up for the Knicks. So to be down in this predicament, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't say, now to me, just be more realistic. Now, this is where I'm cutting them some slack. I don't think that the Knicks are going to sweep them, but during this situation, I think that the Knicks are favored to win this series because I don't see how you're going to walk into Madison Square Garden and come out alive. I just don't see that. I think they may get one game, but it could be where this series could go to 6 games where okay, you win games 3 or 4, then you come back and win game 5, and then Knicks come back and close it out in game 6. That's my predicament. But
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, Chief, but you can't give this team no slack, and you play this way,
How dare you?
especially when you're up 20 in both games and you blew it twice.
How dare
can't
you
do
do that, Antwane?
No sir.
Nah.
How dare you? We are. I'm Garrett. I am completely with you. Boston, you fucking deserve to lose both of these goddamn games. Up 20. 20, but like I've always said this about Boston. Boston is a team you can win against because Boston does Boston shit. They can be up by fucking 50 points and will give the shit away.
And Antwane, you know that. Especially when we played against them here at home.
Right.
Come on now, bro.
I'd be damn if I cut them any slack. Y'all deserve to lose both of these goddamn games. You deserve to lose this damn series the way that y'all are playing. Y'all shot y'all are 25 of 75 from 3. Why are y'all still shooting fucking 3 ball? Stop it. Take that bitch to the rack. Stop fucking complaining about not getting calls and just play ball. This might be a comment for another episode, but the type of, and this goes around the entire league, the way that these motherfuckers complain about calls shows me the type of ball that they played growing up. Y'all weren't playing against grown men fucking busting your ass, pushing you down, fouling you on purpose for you to play through the contact. Y'all, again, AAU ball and basketball, how I'll say I grew up, and probably others that grew up like me, completely different basketball. But yeah, like the Boston Celtics deserve to lose this series by the way that they have come out and played these first 2 games at home at that. Got Paul Pierce out here. Well, I'm not shocked at what Paul Pierce the claim that Paul Pierce made and had him fucking so-called walking to work this morning. But you got Paul Pierce out here. Of course he's gonna believe in y'all. He former Celtic, but also for y'all to go out there and fucking embarrass the shit out of not only him but every other Celtic before y'all. And I don't know if it's because y'all are the reigning champs, but y'all damn sure ain't playing like it. This shooting from 3 shit every trip down the fucking floor needs to stop. And fucking Joe Mazzulla, you deserve a shit ton of blame. That whole shit about, oh, you don't know if you'll be fired. Look, this is the type of shit that gets you fired.
I said that to people multiple times. What was
this
it?
is the type
2
of
seasons
shit that
ago
gets
when he
you
became
fired.
head coach? When he became head coach, I told people this multiple times. I said, look, yes, he's a good coach, but he's one of those ones like, hey, he is very, very good at blowing leads, especially during the past series in the playoffs. He's done that multiple times. Now, I'm not calling out saying that he should be fired, but I'm just saying in this case here, I'm not saying that he should or that he would, but it's just like, okay, you down 2-0, so of course you know how it goes when stuff like this happens. There's always going to be one scapegoat. It's always going to be the coach.
Yeah, not saying that he should be fired, but this is the type of shit that gets you fired.
Exactly. 10 times out of 10.
As the head coach, I don't know what between now and Saturday, I don't know what you got to do, what you got to say. I don't give a damn if you got to punch somebody in the damn throat. Like, do what you got to do to get this damn team in order for y'all to steal a game in New York, because this is not looking good for y'all. So
it's not.
I just wanted to come on here and chastise Antwane just a little bit.
Nah,
talk my shit about the Celtics because they did piss me off the way they played.
Again, I only said that because we saw the defending champions in a similar position about 2 years ago. When they faced Miami Heat, they lost 3 games in a row, won 3 games in a row, and of course they went on to lose that game 7 after Jason Tatum. Then he rolled his ankle in like the first quarter, and this wasn't the same after that. And yeah, of course, getting the moral victories, but again, I only mentioned the slack part because they drained the lead, obviously. They kept spamming 3-pointers. Like I did mention, if you live by it, you're going to die by it. But I feel like at least like in the game 2 loss, like when they lost by 1 like that, they at least had a chance to salvage what they had compared to the first loss, which I thought the first loss, which is of course both are indefensible. But I at least thought the second one they at least tried a little harder. But of course, like Wiley did mention, Joe Mazzulla does have to learn from the 3-point shooting. I think he's gotten really accustomed to his system and what has worked in the regular season, given the success Boston has had. But I think right now with their upcoming games, like Garrett mentioned in Madison Square Garden, I will say this. If they get one, it's going to be really hard to beat that team. They know what they're capable of, and I feel like their egos themselves. I still think Jason Tatum is the best player in the series. On paper, that is, of course.
Oh, they are the better team. That's the bad part about it. Like they show that they can get a lead with the quickness, but it's the maintaining of the lead. They get up big, and then they take their foot off the gas, and lo and behold, boom, New York's back in it. New York wins.
But it's not only that though, Wiley. It's like this right here, because my cousin, he once told me this. He said, look, if it's not working, then you need to fix it, and then you need to change something. My thing is to the point that you said before. They were, I forgot how many threes that they shot and that they missed, but it's like, okay, you keep shooting threes and they're not going in.
Last night.
My thing is like, okay, if the threes are not falling, then take it to the rim and then come back to it. You got to put points on the board one way or another. So it's like, okay, if the shots are not falling in, then change it a little bit. Take it to the rim, get to the free throw line, and then come back to it. But that you have to make adjustments, and that's part of the playoffs. And when you stick to one plan, then opposing teams, they're going to catch that, and then this is what happens when you don't do that.
The problem is Jason Tatum is not the guy who can just put his mind to it and go get a bucket whenever he sees the team making a comeback. Like he's not the guy that's gonna go and be like, all right, give me the ball real quick. Let me go to the cup and get this bucket, so that way we can break up this run.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And I agree with both of you. I agree with both. I do think that they're psyching themselves out mentally as well. They're used to adversity. I don't think they're at any point weak-minded or anything like that, or frail or anything of that nature, or soft, as some people like to call their players, of course, Kobe, stuff like that. I just think that they're getting used to, like, again, it's not the adversity because they're used to that. It's just like they're not used to their system not working like that, because they know they got some of the best personnel. They got the 6th man of the year. They got 2 superstar players on the team. It's rare to have 2 homegrown superstars and a 3rd star with Kristaps Porzingis at that. And I do agree. Again, I see where Wiley and Garrett are coming from, absolutely, especially after blowing the leads. I thought with the second game, the fact that it came down to just 1 point, like they still could have at least salvaged what they had. But of course, moving on from the Boston Celtics series, we'll see what happens. That is one of the more interesting storylines. Everyone's gonna be watching that game 3. I do believe what I said. If they do get that one game in Madison Square Garden, it's gonna be hard to beat that team like 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row. Like, it's just hard. Their defense is too good. Their offense is too good. Like, especially like sometimes they need an ass whooping to really wake themselves up. Like, oh man, like our season could really be over if we don't really get it together, So like game 3, y'all can come back next Thursday and see what kind of conversation we're having. Not like I'm a Celtics fan, of course, but see what kind of conversation we're having, because man, that game 3, that's gonna be a hell of a game. The first 2, of course, were damn near classics. Of course, they blew leads and stuff, but I at least enjoyed the endings and stuff. But that game 3, that's going to be sensational. And that would depend if the Boston Celtics can really defend their title or if the Knicks become the favorite to win the 2025 NBA championship. But moving on to the Western Conference, of course. Yeah, man, the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I've enjoyed this series, of course, with the MVP candidates going at it. We did see that the Denver Nuggets themselves came back in the first game to take that one in Oklahoma. I think Jokic had like 42 points and like 22 rebounds. It's incredible performance for one of the greatest centers of all time at this point. And we saw that OKC got their get back in a devastating fashion in game 2 when they blew OKC. It was like a 30-point lead at one point over the 2023 NBA champions. So I'm excited to see where this series go. Obviously, you have to see MVP candidates spearheading the entire thing. So I am intrigued to see what happens. How did you feel about the game 1 and game 2 of the series thus far? And who would you say you lean towards to win this series now that 2 games have happened in the series?
Well, game 2 was quite ugly. To get beat by 43. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just not accustomed to seeing teams getting beat like that. I mean, nowadays you see teams get beat by 40 or 50 every now and then. But I mean, like I said, I think in the playoffs when you're on the road, I think it's important that you at least get one, and you come back home, at least got one under your belt. And in Denver, they did that. They went into game 1 and they were able to win it at the last shot. And so they did what they needed to do. But I just think that for Denver, they had to respond because OKC, as of right now, it's kind of hard to debate. I think Denver has done a pretty good job of facing adversity in some cases, but you're dealing with a different team of OKC. This is not the Clippers. So you have SGA, who is a MVP candidate, and of course his auxiliary pieces around him with Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams. These guys are young; they know how to play. So it's just one of those things where right now it just depends on what happens in games 3 and 4. If they're able to, meaning OKC, if they're able to take both games 3 and 4, or at least get one, then this may run towards a series where it could go to 7 games, maybe, or something like that, though. But right now, I kind of have OKC in their favor right now, simply because they won game 2 in a big way. So we just have to see how they really respond in Denver, but it's kind of hard to tell. But right now, OKC, just the way how they won in game 2, it's starting to seems like this could go into their favor. So you just have to wait.
I mean, hey man, like you make a pretty good case for it. Game 1, Denver took it 121 to 119. Game 2. Game 2, OKC won it 149 to 106 over the Denver Nuggets. Absolutely devastating final score, really showing how Denver felt, not Denver, how OKC felt about dropping just that first game on the floor. Had them pissed off when they left the floor that night. Best believe it. And yeah, like it's pretty crazy to see that the fact that they're really taking this much of a leap, obviously they look good in the regular season with what they did, finishing with the league's best record, but blowing Denver out the way they did, and of course adjusting, to me was the biggest part of the entire game. The way they make adjustments like that, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Really, I thought they all just performed better, in my opinion, and it was truly a great collective group effort. And I want to show some love to Isaiah Hartenstein as well. I think he's been the biggest X factor for this team in the way that he's came in, changed the interior defense dramatically like that. And I think right now, I do agree with you. I do think that you could say they are probably the favorites to win this series in advance. I'm excited. Like, I do think it is finals or bust for Oklahoma. I feel like everybody feels that way, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, man, I do think that at this point, it wouldn't be surprising to maybe see them take it, maybe like 4-2, something like that. I do want to see it go 7 games. I think the bench stuff is what is showing itself in this series now, and I think that's what's going to help OKC finally pull away in this one. But what were your closing thoughts on the Denver Nuggets versus the Oklahoma City Thunder? We got 2 MVPs in this series, so got to enjoy it while it lasts for sure.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think it'll turn out to be a fun series regardless because like I said, you have 2 MVP candidates that are going head to head. And I think this is something that a lot of people want to see. Of course, you want to see a little bit more of a fight with Denver. Again, they lost in a very, very ill way in game 2, being, losing by 43. So I'm hoping that they come back home with a lot more energy, a lot more fight in front of their home crowd, and so I'm expecting that to happen. But no, I think that if Denver shows to put up a more of a fight, then you could definitely see the series go to 7 games. And like I said, it should be fun just to see SGA and Jokic go, head to head. So it'll be exciting to see. But yeah, it should be a fun series.
And yeah, man, even this course reacting to the second Western Conference series, the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors just came back on the Timberwolves. They're up by a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty remarkable. They won the first quarter 29-15. Now Golden State's winning the third quarter 16-6, and it's 62-55 Minnesota right now. So that is a series. Of course, and the biggest news about that is Stephen Curry suffering his first ever muscle strain, like ever in his entire career. That's pretty substantial, given how long he's been in the league. Steph came in 2009, so the fact he just now suffered his first muscle strain like that really shows you how great a shape he's always in year round. And apparently, I mean, it has certainly affected the series, but Golden State's still trying their absolute hardest to make this a dogfight. And they're up in the series. They won without Steph. They blew them out without Steph in the first game. So, how do you feel about the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Warriors series? I would love to see Anthony Edwards go to the finals this year, but it's gonna be kind of hard seeing who he has to face. But how do you feel about the Wolves and the Warriors right now?
Yeah, I think for Minnesota, they're up 10 right now, 68-58. So I think this is a series that could possibly go to 7 games as well because it's where both teams can come in and really win on both each other's home court rather. So now as far as a team that I could see winning, I could give it to Minnesota due to the simple fact that I feel like that they have a little bit more depth. Um, Then Golden State, I think their defenders are a little bit better. I think where for Golden State, of course, their continuity between Steph and um, Draymond and Steve Kerr, but due to the fact that Steph is out of injury, I think that's going to change the trajectory for Golden State. So with him being out, Golden State is going to suffer a lot. So I think that for now, I believe that Minnesota is favored to win this series. So if Steph is not able to come back in this series at all, then I don't see how Golden State will come out of this series. Honestly, I think it will take a miracle for Steph to come back and take over. But like I said, I hope he has a speedy recovery. But like I said, if he's not able to come back in during the series, then I think that's a series right there for you.
And it's just the timing of the injury, seeing how he's 37 years old now, I really hope this isn't the one that triggers a decline for him or anything like that. Seeing how he needs this mobility to really, of course, get his jump shot off and coming around them screens off the off ball play and stuff like that. So I hope he's all right, man. One of the greatest point guards to ever do it, literally top 3 point guards of all time, in my opinion. Pretty hard to deny him a top 3 spot at this point, given in his career. So, really enjoyed these playoffs thus far. It really has been a fun playoffs, man. I didn't enjoy the playoffs this much the last 2-3 years. So, it's cool to see all these upsets. The first round, second round. I got all time greats losing in the first round. LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, like all these dudes, and now you got the future all-time greats, Nikola Jokic, a current superstar SGA, going at it. So I really think it has been a great playoffs thus far. I think NBA fans are definitely eating, for sure. And speaking of the NBA, of course, as we always like to discuss, they did announce that the coach of the year this year was not really much of a surprise, to be quite honest with you, but I always got to give him his credit. Always love to give the acknowledgement of these awards, and it was given to Kenny Atkinson. The coach of the year was Kenny Atkinson for the 2025 NBA season. Congratulations to him. It's his first year with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he won coach of the year already. So the fact he came in one season and made him a 60-win team like that really shows you getting hired in 2024. So it's cool to see him really do this. The former Hawks assistant, you feel me, really go over it. It really shows you all you need is an opportunity in anything. It doesn't matter what it is. All you need is an opportunity. Legends are made. Legends aren't just of course, this is where legends are born. People say that, stuff like that. But, you have to get the opportunity to make yourself a legend. No one's just brought up to that, So, but of course, we actually wanted to talk about Kenny Atkinson in depth with this topic. Obviously, he did win Coach of the Year. But sorry about that. Y'all get my charger. A lot of us are curious to see if, given the state of the Cleveland Cavaliers, could this possibly affect his employment? Now, I know it's a 2-part question for you, Garrett. First off, I want to get your reaction to him winning Coach of the Year. Obviously, he'd had a great season this year. Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. It was really just an amazing year overall. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, minus what's going on right now in Cleveland. So how did you feel about Kenny Atkinson winning Coach of the Year? And do you think if they were to somehow mess this up, blow this up, if they get swept, if they get beat 4-1, do you think it could somewhat put him on the hot seat? We've seen coaches go to the finals and get fired after. We've seen coaches win Coach of the Year and get fired after. So how do you feel about Kenny Atkinson winning Coach of the Year? And how do you feel about his recent performance in the playoffs thus far with the Cavaliers?
Yeah, so the answer to your first question, I'm not surprised. I really pretty much expected Kenny Atkinson to win Coach of the Year because he led the Cavs to winning 64 games and lose 18. So they were clearly the best team, in the NBA, even though that OKC, they won 68 games and 14 and lost 14 games though. But I think just from an improvement standpoint, I think that Cleveland, they were the team that showed that once they added Kenny Atkinson as their new head coach, you saw how they took off because they didn't really make many changes to their roster. Kenny Atkinson just came in and brought in a new identity that fit better for the players all around, and you saw the results. So yeah, it's not a surprise to see Kenny Atkinson win Coach of the Year. So yeah, so definitely tip my cap off to him. I think he's in a great situation with Cleveland, and I think that they are a legitimate contending team. So this comes to your second question. I don't think that he'll be in a hot seat. Now, granted, I think at least in today's NBA, I think that organizations' patience has shortened a lot. Where you're seeing coaches and executives where they're only given a short amount of time to really prove themselves or to put their organizations in a right spot to go and be successful and win games. So you're starting to see them only getting, very short amount of time to go and get things right. So, but for me, I don't think that they would go. I don't think Kenny Atkinson would be in a hot seat, given the fact that, hey, yes, you're down with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley's out and DeAndre Hunter, so you're having core players that are down with injury. But due to the fact that just they're the number one overall seed, and I think there's a lot to love about this team. I think there's a lot to be excited about. Now, of course, they're going to have to make some decisions with their roster, given the fact that Evan Mobley has won Defensive Player of the Year. So, of course, he's going to earn even more money now. So that's going to, make some complications for this team to make some decisions for sure. Due to to the first and second apron, in the CBA rules, things of that nature. But no, I think Cleveland, they're in a very, very good spot. So I don't see Ken Atkinson getting on a hot seat. I think that if they don't make it to the finals or make it to the Eastern Conference Finals next year, then I think that's where you may start to hear some rumblings. But at least right now, I don't think he's in that situation at this moment.
Yeah, man. And I'm not trying to be like drastic or anything like that. I'm not trying to be boisterous or fly off the handle or anything. I do in fact believe that if they lose 4-1 or anything like that, man, those executives aren't going to care at all about that regular season success. They can win 70 games. They could win 82. They can win all 82 if they do not come home with that Larry O'Brien trophy. It means nothing to these dudes. And I do agree with what you said, though. They wouldn't pull the trigger on Kenny Atkinson like that, especially seeing what he's done in one season. It would definitely take him maybe 2 or 3 to get it right. He has the core to win a championship. I just think he's never been in this position before, being down 2-0. Like, you're the head coach. The whole bench is looking at you to see what direction you want to go, like where you want to, they're looking at during halftime, coach, what do we do?
Yeah.
People don't understand. It's different when you're coaching grown ass men. It's totally different when you're coaching. These grown ass men have egos, and of course, they respect Kenny Atkinson and stuff like that, but people just don't understand how hard it is to really be a coach in the NBA, out coaching other coaches. And these guys are some of these dudes don't get no sleep. Some of these dudes stay up all night watching film, like what you see in the movies, really sitting there all night. Just they make them earn every million, every dollar of those millions. And to keep it on Atkinson, just describing the pressure he's under right now, being down 2-0 after having the season that he had in the regular season. I wish nothing but the best. We mentioned there in the first topic. I don't know if they'll be able to come back. I think it's going to be hard to. It's just because Indiana, it's the circumstance. They're a buzzsaw in the playoffs in particular, especially Tyrese Halliburton. Indiana, Cleveland clearly has the better roster, blow for blow. But I just think Indiana is outperforming Cleveland right now. Even if they only won by 1 point, it's the fact that Halliburton is hitting shots like that in those moments that shows he's trying to win this series by literally any means necessary. And I think for Atkinson, man, we got to see how he bounces back from this. Obviously, if he comes back 2-1, 2-2, then, go up 3-2. Even if he loses that game 6, goes to game 7, as long as he can pull this out, he'll still have the respect of the league and things of that nature. But obviously, the regular season is one thing, but the postseason is another. And that's where the coaches really gain the respect. When you're going against a coach, at least 4 to 7 times head to head. And you got to see, because obviously you have the quote unquote better team on paper. And he's had injuries, of course, got to be fair. But even in the injuries, they had a lead during that game and they lost the lead and lost the game. So, I just think right now with Kenny Atkinson, he put himself on the map this year. Of course, he's been in the league for years, but he's put himself on the map this year as a head coach for certain. But we'll see what happens, man. If he loses in the second round, not even making it to the Eastern Conference Finals with this roster, man, I definitely think it's gonna raise some red flags around Cleveland Cavaliers front office. They like him. They saw what he did in one season, but they want to know what he can do in the playoffs. More importantly, at least that's my 2 cents on it. But we'll see what happens. I don't want to see no man lose his job. Nor do I think they're gonna fire him, of course. But if he loses, like I said, that's a massive, massive, massive red flag, in my opinion. And moving on to the final topic of the evening. I actually want my boy Wiley to come on here for this. I didn't tell him I wanted him on camera for this, but I do want him on camera for this topic. Now, obviously, the most important award, in my opinion, inside the NBA is the most valuable player award given to the best player among all players in the league that year. You have no idea how hard you have to ball to win a most valuable player award. You're the epitome of a world-class basketball player. Now, obviously, how we mentioned, the Denver Nuggets in Oklahoma City Thunder series is going on at the moment. You're seeing two not legends. One's a legend for sure, but one's a superstar. Go at it right now with SGA and Nikola Jokic for certain. And that beckons the question online, from what I've seen, is the MVP really meant to be a regular season award? Now, I want to go ahead and kick it off by saying, I do not think so. I've always thought the postseason should be factored in. I always thought maybe like the MVP could be given out maybe like because before the finals start, the NBA normally takes like a week in between to let the promotion build up and let it marinate and stuff like that. I've always thought maybe like the day before the finals start, like seeing who play, because obviously now you have the best 2 teams in the league that year in the finals now. You have, the team that could have had the best player on it, a 1 seed, a 2 seed, whoever they are. And obviously, if the MVP was on like a 1 seed or a 2 seed and they got bounced in the first round like that, obviously they might not have really been the MVP like that, because if you're the most valuable player, you have to be like one of the sole reasons why your team wins the game, and it has to actually equate to success. You feel me? I.e., why Nikola Jokic has 3 MVPs at the moment. So, I said my piece on it. I do think that it should be factored in with the playoffs. I think they could go all the way to the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals, since like there's more teams active, and then they could decide who's an MVP, or maybe because finals MVP, obviously that's a whole different thing. That's finals MVP. That's a realm of its own. But I just think more should be taken into account than just the regular season, where there's no real pressure on the line like that in the regular season, unless of course you're a bottom seeded team and you want to improve. But when you're in position like a Denver Nuggets, like a Oklahoma City Thunder, like all these teams that most of the time have an MVP, when you're gonna make the playoffs, like I think that there's no real pressure there. There's no real pressure there compared to other teams that have to fight and claw to get into the playoffs. So that's just my take on it. Because obviously we always see the 1 seed and the 2 seeds always win MVP. Obviously SGA is the front runner right now. Even having there was games he wasn't there, they were still blowing teams out in the regular season with Oklahoma. So Wiley, I would love to hear what you have to say first. Absolutely. If you think the MVP should be a regular season award, or should they factor some playoff performances and other things into account with the MVP?
Nope, keep it a regular season. It's always been that way. But now what I will say is do a most outstanding player for the playoffs. And then you keep your finals MVP. MVP has always been a measure of what you've done during the regular season. And like you said, we've seen people who have won MVP and got their ass bounced out early. It happens. But of course, the way the MVP award is looked at, especially in this era where MVPs and NBA titles are the end all be all, so to speak, for some. Well, I will say for the younger fans, and for some older, they pull us older fans. We tend to pull it out later in the game just because we try and be factual and be able to walk down what people have done before we get to how many rings they've won. But keep the MVP a regular season award, man. 82 games is more than enough to figure out who the MVP of the league is. Of course, I like this one more in particular because you have two candidates who have balled the entire season, and you know for a fact that it can go either way. And we discussed this before, and with Garrett, like Garrett said, when you look at MVP, if you were to take each player out, take them away from their team, what would that team look like? So, like I said, keep it a regular season award. Just add one more award, add a most outstanding player, and that's throughout the playoffs. So whoever makes it to the conference finals for the East and the West, crown them, move on to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think to what he said, I think he really nailed it there. I think that when you look at accolades like MVP, most improved player, of course they've added other awards like clutch player of the year, things of that nature. Those are regular season accolades. So that's not necessarily an accolade that you could achieve in the playoffs from an individual standpoint. Of course, you have the finals. Of course, whoever's going to win it all. Of course, that's going to be an accolade for sure, the biggest accolade of all. But as far as individually, not necessarily. But if anything, it would just be from a statistical standpoint. But no, I think that it should be just accounted for just regular season because of the fact, to Wiley said, it's an 82 game season. So you're not necessarily going to factor into how who's the most valuable player is in the playoffs, because you could have a guy that wins MVP and gets bounced in a first round of the playoffs, like to Wiley's point. So that's not really something that people can use off of to say, hey, this guy should be most improved player or most valuable player because such and such. So, but no, just keep it the way it is, like always been, just regular season award, and then just go off of it from there.
Yeah, man, I just wanted y'all's take on that again, because obviously it's been a big discussion with Denver Nuggets and OKC, literally going off head to head right in front of us. So I just think that when you have two players of this magnitude like that, and they're both still putting on spectacular performances, like literally until the very end, because of course the series tied 1-1. We'll see if Denver can come up with any adjustments that could possibly rival what Oklahoma did in the game 2. But I just think when you have those two players, when you literally have the MVP candidates facing off in front of each other, and one bounces out the other off just, playing better almost, you could say. Of course, the whole team has to play better, of course, but my point. I just think that with moments like that, at least it popped into my head that what if they factored playoff success more in. I do like Wiley's point, though. That kind of literally answers my question, and it kind of, solves it as well. They could just add another award. They've done it in the past, like Garrett said, when they just added the Kia Clutch Player Award. They could literally add a most outstanding playoff player as well. I could see them doing that, and they added the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals MVPs. So that's a thing now. So they even added. I'm pretty sure there's an NBA Cup MVP.
Right, like they've added all this shit. The thing is, I don't want them doing what the NFL did. So, for those who, if they're anybody that's watching or listening that's not necessarily tuned to the NFL. When the Chiefs and the Bills played a couple of years ago, and the Chiefs won in overtime, and that was before this is what caused the NFL to change the overtime rule, because you want to coddle another player who you thought should have got another chance. No, fuck that. The rules are the rules. Like, you play within the rules, and then they change them, and then he still gets his ass kicked. So, but that's what I don't want with the NBA. Like, let's not change. There's no point in changing the rules. Just you can add to it. You've already been adding to it. So add one more trophy. What's one more trophy is not going to hurt at this point. You've already added four more trophies.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Nah, it was a good discussion. I was just always curious about that. Like I did say, they did add the Western Conference and Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So it was cool to see.
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty funny because Jaylen Brown won it last year, and it was named the Larry Bird Trophy. So it was pretty poetic to go to a Celtic, you know.
Going to add these last two, most outstanding for the East and the West, and be done with it.
No, yeah, for real. That's why I said I definitely did enjoy that discussion, because I do think I like the hypothetical. It's kind of like when we did the expansion as well, listing different states that we think could get different teams. I really enjoyed that shit too. Most definitely, we could even do that. Come up with different awards that we think the NBA could distribute. It's a lot of them at this point. You can only give out so many. You can't at a certain point. It's going to be damn near like consolation prizes. Like damn near runner ups and stuff. You can only give out so many. So yeah, man. Either way, NBA playoffs are in full swing. We'll see what happens. Most definitely. Everyone's keeping eyes on all those big series. Watch those game threes with the Celtics and the Pacers and the Knicks and the Cavs. It's just gonna be crazy to see how both higher seed teams try to bounce back on the opposing floors like that. It's just gonna be crazy to see them try to go in against that adversity, against the odds like that. But that's it for me, man. We had a great show. Really enjoyed talking to you boys as always, most definitely. Yeah, man, just can't wait for next Thursday for sure. Getting closer to the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals, and at that point, we can straight up get predictions now that we know who the real players are for real this postseason. So, yeah, I can't wait for that. And that's it for me tonight, Garrett, if you're good, bro.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy over the next few days. And let's see if the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics are able to bounce back in the playoffs. And we'll see starting out tomorrow. So good luck to you.
Hey, man, we'll see what happens. Like I said, always one of the best times of the year, if not Christmas, NBA postseason, if not March Madness. So thank y'all again for joining us on the Uncommon Commentators. Y'all have a blessed weekend. Enjoy yourselves. If y'all aren't basketball fans, watch some fights, watch some UFC, some boxing, whatever y'all are into, most definitely. If y'all are some football fans, if any Cowboys fans out there, they just got George Pickens. So that just went through. So we'll see how that plays out. Most definitely, of course. A lot of going on in the world of sports right now. I guess Wiley just gave his 2 cents on that George Pickens trade. A lot of people aren't really fans. This is a basketball podcast.
That was just for the Cowboys in general.
Oh, I got you for sure. The Cowgirls, as some people like to call them, of course. Absolutely. But thank y'all again for joining us on the Uncommon Commentators, and God bless y'all. Y'all stay safe out there.
One band, one sound. They give me my thing.